All right, so we're gonna speed round this thing for the because it was a brutal couple of weeks. So I'm gonna go through the scores, and then we're going to, in general terms, talk about our feelings in chunks, right? So we're gonna try to go through this as quickly as possible. We're not gonna break down every single game, the scoring, the stats like we normally do. We're going all the way back to Brooklyn. We live lost it on the last podcast, that game 112 to 100. So we talked about that one. They then went to Denver, lost 141 to 128. To the Clippers, 102 to 93. Lost at the Lakers, 119, 117. We're able to beat Phoenix, the 113 to 110. Then they lost to Utah, 112 to 120. But then they were able to beat Sacramento 125 to 111. So they were able to get 2 wins on that 6-game road swing. But we'll start there. Champ, what were some of your thoughts? You can pick out any game or just general feelings, whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. So this West Coast road trip was not the best at all. And I had a feeling in the pit of my stomach, which is bothering me right now, that the West Coast road trip was not going to be the best. They came out of that Brooklyn game feeling a little deflated. They were they were basically on a bad losing streak going into that West Coast road trip, and then that losing streak just continued. They were able to rebound in Phoenix, but then they turned around, lose to the Utah Jazz, and then they was able to win in Sacramento to at least salvage something. But that was a bad stretch for the Wizards, and it's really making this a very tough season to watch for this Wizards team that they struggled so much. Again, 3-point shooting is not this team's strong point, but yet they continue to chuck threes left, right, and in between, not understanding that that's not their strong suit. Their strong suit is in the paint. They need to focus more on that and use the 3-pointers when they need to and things like that. So that was a bad stretch, honestly.
Yeah, they actually had lost 10 in a row before that Phoenix one. And then so they basically lost 11 out of 12, in that stretch. Tim, any other thoughts about that time in
No, I mean, the tank was bad, but then it was random that they played better for a little bit. But yeah, it's just an ugly season and very tough scheduling around the holidays. Didn't help.
Yeah. Arun, speak to that 10 of or 11 out of 12 loss, and then we'll talk about the upswing after that.
Yeah, a lot of those losses happened with Beal out and Porzingis missed a couple games. But then I think even that close loss against the Lakers, they got Beal back, and then they won a couple, beat the Suns and the Kings are good teams with Jarrell Wright, their backup point guard, finally came back, and he's if he played every game, he'd be leading the league in steals per game. So, yeah, the Wizards started playing better when Beal came back. Then the Kings and the Suns are playoff teams, but I'll let you know how I feel about the rest of the Wizards games when we get to that.
Right. So then it goes Tuesday, December 27th against the Sixers. They won that game 116-11 to 111. They were able to sweep the season series with Phoenix when they won that game big, 127 to 102 at home. Then they went to Orlando, continued that win streak, 119 to 100 to make that win streak go to 4. Then they were able to continue it to make it 5 at Milwaukee. They had almost all of their good players out for that game, but they won 118 to 95, which is still surprising, even with all that on New Year's Day. But then, why don't we'll stop at the winning? We'll let you guys break down the winning thing, and then we'll talk about the last part. So, Champ, what are your thoughts about that 5-game win streak?
Winning. I mean, after losing 11 of their last 12, I mean, then they turn around and go on a 5-game winning streak. It's like, oh, there's hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And it's like, okay, they're finally starting to play well. But I think when they finally got their 5th straight win against the Bucks on New Year's Day, it was a weird schedule because then 2 days later, they play the same team in the same venue, and the result was a lot different. Yeah, exactly. But I honestly feel like this 5-game winning streak was somewhat of a small glimmer of what this team is capable of. And this is something that needs to be replicated a lot more throughout the season if they're going to be successful and make the playoffs. So that's my thoughts on it. It's like, this is a small glimmer of what they can be, honestly.
Yeah. Tim, what are your thoughts on the 5-game win streak?
One thing that's interesting with the new playoff format, and also the Eastern Conference is pretty bad this year overall. The top is good, but overall it's bad. The Wizards played themselves into like the play-in spot with this winning streak are very close. So even now they're not far out of a play-in spot. I'm not saying they should keep going for it, but it just shows that they're not that far out of like the playoffs.
They're average.
Fringe.
They're an average team.
But I will say they did catch some teams like the Bucks with a lot of guys out. Porzingis was playing better. They were healthy, but it's just really hard to come back from a 10-game losing streak with their talent level. They can't afford to do that again. So,
yeah, for sure. Arun, final thoughts on the win streak?
Yeah, it kind of came to like a crashing end. Like the Philadelphia game, they ended up winning, but Beal left that game with an injury. I went to the Suns game, and the Suns were
picked a good one.
The Suns were kind of had a lot of injuries. Like Booker was out, and when the Wizards bench was in, every single one of the Wizards bench players was better than the Suns bench players. So that just led to a blowout. Orlando had 7 bench players suspended after that altercation with the Pistons. So that game was another easy win. And then Milwaukee, that when Giannis and Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton didn't play. And then things came back to reality when Giannis came back and Beal got injured again. He played in the Milwaukee game and he left with an injury. I don't know why. I think something's up with the medical staff where Beal just has to wait it out because hamstring injuries take a while to heal. And then at OKC, they just got blown out. And the Pelicans, that game was just over after the first quarter. Even though they had a 10-point lead, the Pelicans, asserted themselves. They didn't even have Zion or Brandon Ingram. So that was a tough loss for the Wizards.
Yeah, it's crazy that they were up 10 and they still scored 37 in that first, but then they still allowed 35. Yeah. So
and their 2 best players were out.
Yeah, and 33 in the second, 32 in the third, and 32 in the fourth. They allowed 32 points in every quarter, and the Wizards were able to put up 32 and 37 in the first and third, but only 19 in the second and 24 in the fourth. That's how you lose a game. But it's just a frustrating week. Arun did a good job of just breaking it down right there. So lost them at Milwaukee, a loss at Oklahoma, and then come home and try to salvage something here, and it's a loss to New Orleans. Upcoming games got Wednesday, January 11th versus Chicago at 7 on Friday. It's the Knicks 7:00 game at home. And then next Monday at 3:00, it's against because it's MLK.
Yeah, they always play that at home.
I forgot about that, but I will be doing an MLK Day podcast, even though I think I have the day off of work, which will be nice. Just because I do want to. We'll get to do a post game show on that as part of our conversation. So we'll break down those 3, the Chicago, New York, and Golden State games, but I'll let each one of you guys kind of break down your thoughts on anything else you want to say about the losses and the upcoming week. So I'll start with you, Champ.
Man, so these last 3 losses after having that 6-game winning streak, that 5-game winning streak, that this 3-game winning streak has been absolutely horrible because they've lost each of these games by at least 10 points or more. So it's just clear they've not been in these games as much as they should be. Tonight's game against the Pelicans was just not even close. I watched it from beginning to end, and it just was not even close. They were outplayed. Pelicans are known to be able to score points off of turnovers, and the Wizards had 20 of them in this game. So it clearly was just not a game that the Wizards were set up to win, and they just did not play well. They didn't play well in any of these games. They were set up for fail when they had to play the Milwaukee Bucks again in Milwaukee after 2 days later, and then had to go and play the Thunder 3 days later, and then 3 days later come back home and start their homestand on the wrong foot. So not a good start here to their homestand. But they have the Bulls, the Knicks, and the Warriors. And this does not look like a very good schedule for this. This looks like a winnable schedule for them. The Bulls are just as mediocre as they are, as well as the Knicks. The Knicks
the Knicks are the 7th seed currently, and Chicago's the 10, and Washington's the 12 seed. But they only are separated right now by 5 wins between Washington and New York at the 7th seed.
So. Right, and then the Warriors are at 500 at the moment. So this is a time where they can right the ship, and before they go back on the road for a game against the Knicks next week, this is the time for them to be able to right the ship and be able to get it back together. I think they can beat the Bulls. I think they can beat the Knicks. The Warriors are going to be a different situation altogether. I feel like this Wizards team can go 2-1 this upcoming week to really set themselves up to really push forward.
Got it. So we think that they'll win the 2 games and then they'll lose that one. So ultimately, if you include today's, they would then be 2-2 on the week. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Tim, what are some of your thoughts?
I don't know. It's hard to have a lot of faith in the Wizards because they're pretty streaky, and a lot of injuries have killed them. I think probably they'll go 1-2 this week because the Knicks are playing pretty well. But I don't know. It's just
they could go 3 easily.
Yeah.
They could even also beat all 3 of them.
I think the Wizards jinxed it when they made that star botch thing with Denny Avdija and Kawhi Leonard. Like they somehow jinxed it, thinking that Denny was a superstar.
Yeah.
When they put that on Twitter, so it's like I don't know. I just feel like they're kind of delusional.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Arun, any thoughts on the upcoming week? Arun?
No thoughts.
Hello?
I don't hear anything, sorry.
Arun, I was asking if you had thoughts on this. You can't hear that.
Does Zoom die?
Okay, got it. Okay. It's fine.
Ending point,
it's a good ending point.
He's back.
He's back. There you go. Arun, can you hear us? Hello?
You can't hear.
All right. Well, we're gonna end this segment. It's fine. We don't need to. We've done.
It's late.
We've done a good show. We've talked about the Wizards. We've got it in, and
there he goes.
and so, but I appreciate everyone for being a part of this show. Oh, he's back. It's like the, anyway, I don't know.
It's like Bradley Beal.
Back and forth. Exactly. But oh wait, there it is. It says connected to audio. I think you got it, Aaron.
Okay, I can hear you guys now.
All right, there you go. All right, we were just asking what your thoughts were on the week ahead.
Yeah, they're like 2 games out of a playoff spot, but they're also like 2 games like for the top like 4 worst records in the NBA. So I say pick a lane, like either try hard or be really bad. Don't just like stay here. Like we're like the 12th seed. All in on either like getting the 6th seed or just all in on being terrible. And I just want to shout out Johnny Davis. He has 11 career points, and against OKC, they picked somebody at number 12, and he had 12 points at halftime. So shout out to Johnny Davis. He's so far a bust with the Washington Wizards.
No longer a bust.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we will wrap up at least the audio side of the podcast and the Facebook side of the podcast. But I really appreciate everyone for being a part of it. Whether you're part of this Wizards Roundtable, it's nice to have all of us back together. Champ, Tim, and Arun. Also, it was great to have Davey on to talk about the NFL playoffs with us, and then before that, C4 and Gil talking some hockey was great as well. So it was a great show, a great premiere episode of the winter season. We'll definitely be back next week with some live Monday Night Football and a live Caps game, and we'll recap the Caps games from this week and these 3 Wizards games that we were just talking about. I just realized that I never ever changed to the Wizards logo, but
there we go.
There we go. I got it before the end of the thing. But I appreciate you guys for all being a part of it, and I'm gonna end the Facebook Live there. But this is DC Sports Without the Politics, Sports on the Hill podcast. You can find out more on our page, facebook.com/sportsothp, or go to sportsothp.com. And we're gonna stop that, and then I am going. So now we're doing the after show. I really appreciate you guys all for tuning in. I do want to give a little shout out if people haven't checked it out. If they go to my YouTube channel, they can see all my latest dive videos. I just put up part 10. It's the longest dive series I've ever done. I hope that people really enjoy it. There's a bunch of cool videos of Zach snorkeling as well as scuba diving, and so I hope people go and check that out. I'm really proud of that. It's the first full-length documentary I've ever really done, and you can sort of see it in parts or skip around to your favorite parts. So I hope people do go and check it out. I was going to show some at the end of it, but this show has already gone 2.5 hours, and so I think we're just going to try to find a raid target. So if anyone has any idea, I think I already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do one of my favorite places to do a post-game show. So we're going to raid to KR Acoustic in just a second. I'm out over there, and he's been on our show before. I see that there's a Pokemon coming in 1 minute, though. So I'm going to stay for the Pokemon, and then we're going to raid out. But I'll let Champ want to give any final thoughts on your podcast before we go.
Absolutely. So this coming Friday night, Sith will be on our Twitch channel live reacting to Impact Wrestling's Hard to Kill, the first professional wrestling major pay-per-view of 2023. So you can join him for that. And then Saturday, we will be recapping that pay-per-view as well as other action in wrestling on our weekly wrestling podcast. We are on the march to the 200th episode, which is going to be taking place in April. So make sure you're checking us out on twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod, and make sure you check us out on the podcast partners button on SportsOTHP.com. We got a lot coming to you. It's going to be a very busy January with not only the podcast, but with live reactions to Hard to Kill, and then a big live reactions to Royal Rumble at the end of January with myself, Sith, Sage, and a special guest, which we will announce on the day of.
Nice. No, and you guys have been killing it. I was lurking your show. I think that was Saturday.
Yes.
And so you guys are killing it. So if anyone's super into wrestling, I hope that they go check out the podcast. I just shared it over on our Twitch stream as well. But it's twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod. And you get TC's People's Champ. And I love that we keep the True Radio Network alive, through our 2 shows. It was great. I will give a shout out. Hurt came on the post game show. If you want to check out the post game show with Carol as they broke down yesterday's game, that is on the webpage as well. So go to sportsothp.com, and we have that and Carol's pregame show as well. So that was really a really fun way to end the season. I appreciate Carol for doing all the pre and post game shows all season long. And I love this connection that we have with the True Radio Network. And so I'm happy that Hurt, who got us into it, and then Champ, who found you? How did you find the wrestling show on the network?
Well, it's funny because I was doing podcasting for another network where I wasn't even doing wrestling. I was doing sports and music, but I got burnt out, decided to take a break from podcasting, and Black GOP was brought up True Radio Network and said there was a place for me if I wanted to do it. He brought me on, and I was originally doing a show about cigars and golf, but the timing wasn't right because I was doing like independent backyard wrestling on the days I wanted to do it. And then I decided, since we were already doing wrestling podcasts for the Underground Wrestling Fed that I was a part of, I decided to just convert it into this, and that's where we are. So that's how No Spots became a thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's cool that you guys are climbing to 200. It'll be right around the time period when we're going to hit 300. So that's kind of cool that we'll both be able to hit those milestones this season. And,
yeah, it's crazy because I did the math, and our 200th episode will be our season premiere after WrestleMania 39. So all the stars have just aligned here because it'll be the first episode of our 5th season. Right. So it all just works out.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's cool that we've been able to do this and document stuff for so long now, and I appreciate you for being a mod and supporting the show and being a subscriber for a year now. And we'll have to work this spring sometime on getting you some more emotes and stuff as well. And I look forward to big and future things from the No Spots pod. With that, I think it is time that we are going to raid KR Acoustic. It is for mature audiences, which always makes it more exciting, right? So but everyone, I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. We got a lot of people tuning in all night long. You made this winter season premiere very special, and I'm happy that we got to talk about Commanders whooping that ass on Dallas. Hopefully next week we can talk about Dallas failing miserably in the playoffs again. So stay tuned for the Hate Dallas podcast next week. And we're DC Sports Without the Politics, Sports on the Hill podcast, and enjoy KR Acoustic.
Okigenyo, sayonara.